I do apologize for my delay in trying to get in.
Can hardly hear you, Eric.
Okay, let me see if I can turn this up. Is that better?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yep.
I can. You're clear to me.
I can hear you as well. Ms. Green, can you hear me?
Barely.
Yeah, I can hear everybody fine.
I can as well.
Okay. All right, who are we waiting on?
You?
Okay, all right. Thank you so kindly. Okay, we will now call this meeting to order. We'll entertain a motion at this time now for an adoption of the agenda.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
We're properly moving second. I will do a roll call here. Ms. Coates, how do you vote?
Yes.
Reverend Collins? Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hollenshed? Mr. Hollenshed? Reverend Collins? Ms. Darby?
Yes.
And I vote yes, and that motion carries. We're good to item. I lost the screen here.
It's item A, 2A.
Yeah, can we put the screen, share the screen, the agenda back up again? There we go. Okay. All right, item 2A is the transitional plan for the second 9 weeks, in-person and temporary remote students. Dr. Postlewaite, are you presenting?
I'm going to start. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
All right, good. Thank you. We wanted to share just a very brief set of details that goes a little further than I went when I talked to the board last week about honoring the commitment we made to parents to, as Ms. Belcher says, allow an on and off ramp at the end of the first 9 weeks. So our briefing is about honoring parent preferences and addressing the teacher workloads to make sure that they're more equitable. These adjustments will occur at the beginning of the second 9 weeks. The next slide simply reassures the board and the public that while we're keeping our commitment to parents to allow them to change from in-person to online or from online to in-person at the end of the first 9 weeks, we'll continue to operate safely under the guidelines that the MUSC team helped develop, that DHEC recommended and approved, that our board approved, and the State Department approved. So in bringing more students back, we will not violate any of those safety guidelines. Michelle Simmons is going to talk us through the next 2 or 3 slides. She's the Associate Superintendent for Elementary Schools. Then Dr. Joe Williams will talk to us about middle and high schools, and Carolyn Belcher will close out the presentation. We simply want to mention that the modifications that are being made were led by principals with the input of teacher leaders and the assistance of district staff. Ms. Simmons?
Thank you, Dr. Postlewaite. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share with the board where we stand at this time as we prepare for second quarter adjustments. On November 11th, we are prepared to welcome back approximately 5,100 additional students for in-person learning. Noted on this slide are the additional students we expect to return by level. With new students being introduced, our principals, teachers, and level leaders have coordinated roster adjustments with the goal of reducing the number of teachers teaching in dual modes while adhering to our safe seating guidelines and maintaining manageable caseloads for teachers. Thank you, Maggie. If we could advance the slide. Thank you. At the elementary level, a majority of our schools will be able to continue to serve online learners internally with current staff. I want to emphasize that the conversation today pertains to a segment of schools, but the overwhelming majority of elementary schools will continue serving their in-person and online students as they have been. But for a segment of elementary schools, we are utilizing a regional strategy and approach to maximize our resources and honor family requests to continue online learning. We have about 21 of our elementary schools who will be serving our temporary remote students in clusters and by region. The majority of the schools working together are situated in District 2. We've grouped them by District 2 North and District 2 South, students in District 9 as well as in District 10. Again, we believe this collaboration will allow us to do a few things: honor our family preferences, adhere to our safe seating capacity, and maintain student-teacher class ratios. Here's an example of what we have planned for a segment of our elementary schools who have small and moderate numbers of online learners remaining for the second quarter. See Mrs. Jones' temporary remote class. For quarter 2, she will be serving 14 students, 9 of which she's been serving since school started, along with an additional 5 students from a sister school, where there are only 5 remaining online learners in kindergarten. Given the limitations and circumstances we are contending with during this pandemic, we do believe this is a solid approach to providing our students with continued quality online learning experiences. At this time, Dr. Williams will speak to middle and high.
So great day, everyone. Hopefully everyone's enjoying this beautiful weather that we have outside. But the story for the middle and high schools is a bit different in that the need for that temporary remote regional option is not needed. We may have a few instances where we have some combo schools that would be our elementary middle or middle high, where they just don't have the staffing and they may need some support. But again, very few scholars would be affected by this. So some of the reasons why they're not needed is, number one, we have a smaller amount of middle and high schools compared to elementary. An example would be in some regions, we have possibly 10 elementary schools where we have 3 middle schools. And in situations like that, the elementary schools would have more teachers to support a school that may not be able to, let's say, give a teacher up to man that temporary regional remote option, where the middle schools wouldn't have that based on the fact that there are so little middle schools in that area. The second reason would be a large amount of scholars would like to remain temporary remote. The sheer number of scholars that we have that still want to remain temporary remote makes it really difficult for us to consider a temporary remote regional option, because we still, on the other hand, have kids that want in person as well in those schools. And finally, the need for more content-specific classes at the middle and high school level make it really difficult to think of or think through a temporary remote regional option, in that in an elementary school, a teacher may be certified to teach all core content areas, where at the middle and high school, they're more content specific, where an ELA teacher is needed to teach ELA, a math to teach math, so on and so forth. So what we're doing at the middle school level is, if we have scheduling modifications that are needed, and if they're necessary, we're gonna let those schools handle those on a school by school basis. And what we're doing, as we have been doing once we entered the pandemic, is we're working with those schools weekly to support them in serving their scholars. I'm gonna turn it over to Carolyn.
I think the key thing here is that the second quarter is beginning November 11th, and our plan is that on or before Friday, parents who have their children in temporary remote should hear from the school about any specific changes, who their teachers are, and making sure everyone knows ahead of time so they can plan accordingly. Our hope here is that we're going to maintain this with some consistency between now and the end of the second quarter or the first semester. And then have one more point of transition at that point. Assuming the virus levels stay steady, the hope would be that we'd be able to finish out the year in either remote option or in person, depending on what the family has selected. We want to make sure that we're minimizing to the extent that we can moving forward this moving, because it does disrupt learning, but we also want to respect parent preferences. So obviously, if there are questions from folks out who are watching the board meeting, please feel free to email my office, and also available if there are questions from the board.
Okay, Dr. Post, this concludes the presentation.
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, all right. We'll allow board members an opportunity to ask questions at this time. I'll go down the list to see if there are any questions from any of the board members. Reverend Collins, are you on? Okay, Mr. Frazier, do you have any questions?
Good.
Okay, Mr. Garrett? Okay, Ms. Green?
Yes, I guess I just need some clarification on how we bring back 5,100 more kids and follow the formula that we've been using previously. I think it's great that we're able to do that, but what has changed that allow us now to bring back 5,100 more kids into the classroom?
Okay, I believe Ms. Simmons made that presentation. Ms. Simmons?
Yes, sir. So Ms. Green?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So because we started small and across the system, we had between 25 and upwards of 60% in a particular building. So oftentimes when you hear the percentages, that's spread across the entire district. So starting small back in September allowed us the ability to shore up our processes. And now we're in a position where we can still adhere to that COVID capacity because we started so small. So what you will find building by building, those schools that started large, they're only bringing back a few kids now. But those who started relatively small have the bulk of the numbers in terms of children returning. It might warrant another conversation where you can actually see the numbers, Ms. Green.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Let me just ask a follow-up. Do we have any idea percentage-wise, once we bring the 5,100 back, and what that percentage would be? And are the 5,100 all elementary students, or middle and high are included in there? And do you have a breakdown on that? That was like 3 questions, Michelle. So if I need to repeat them, I will.
Yes, ma'am. So the numbers are broken down. I think it was slide 3 that showed you that the bulk of those numbers are coming back at the elementary level. But off the top of my head, because I don't have the slide in front of me, I think it was approximately 800 at the middle and 700 at the high. So the bulk.
I missed that. I totally missed that slide. So, okay.
It's okay. And I do need you to refresh my memory on the second follow-up question.
The percentage of students that will total percentage once we do that?
Yes, ma'am. Overall, we'll be hovering around 70% in person and 30% online.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's not a lot of movement between now and November 11th.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hollenshed, are you on? Okay, Ms. Coates?
So Ms. Simmons, to follow up with what you said, can we expect that we will get a school-based update after November 11th, much like the one we got after the beginning of the school year, when we have these on-off ramps? Will we get that information in a school-by-school form?
Yes, ma'am, we can certainly prepare that.
Okay. And the only other question I have is one of the things you said when you were referencing the example for the elementary school with Mrs. Jones's class, you said sister school. Are we trying to keep all the kids who are going to be regionalized together by schools? So Proficient Park Elementary, are they going to send 2 kids to one elementary school and 6 kids to another? Or are you trying to keep them in the same group as they go into a regional place?
So for example, Carolina Park, Jenny Moore, Mount Pleasant Academy, and Whitesides are in a cluster. And so between the 4 of them, they will be able to, based on their numbers, send kids to and from those 4 schools. So the intent and the goal is to make sure those boys and girls in that particular cluster are only associated with those 4 schools.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Darby,
I'm good. No questions. Thanks.
no questions? Okay. I believe, and I have no questions either. Thank you for the presentation. Can we put the agenda back up? Thank you. All right. So the next item we have up is the cancel of the November 9th Committee of the Whole meeting.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Frazier, second by Ms. Coates. Ms. Darby, how do you vote? Ms. Darby?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
I don't believe Mr. Hollenshed or Reverend Collins is on.
Vote yes.
That's Reverend Collins?
Yes.
Reverend Collins voted yes. I voted yes. That motion carries. I believe.
Move to adjourn.
So move. Thank you to everyone for your attendance and have a great day.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.